Thanks everyone for joining. I think we'll go ahead and get started now. So first off, just to introduce myself, I'm Steven. I was a former Google product manager, and now I work on product management coaching, so helping folks get from product management into their dream job. So one of the things that, the biggest kind of piece of this that I work on is this website called PM Lesson, and that's how I got in touch with the session. And we'll go ahead and kind of get started with a little bit of a talk, but I'd love for it to be interactive, so I'll have my chat window here. So, feel free to chat. I'm going to kind of take some breaks throughout the talk. And yeah, don't hesitate to jump in. Usually I do this in person, so it's a little easier to be interactive, but regardless, feel free to jump in or even speak out loud, I guess, in the session, and we can field it during the talk. Cool. So just wanted to start off kind of, I'm going to present like this so that it's just easier for me to switch back and forth. Hope that's okay, and I hope everyone can see the screen. So just kind of start off, like, curious what your guys' take on, so hopefully you guys all know what these are. These are Google Doodles, and each of them are basically a design or artwork designed, it's supposed to delight the user, and it's supposed to show something interesting or unique from history. In fact, can anyone guess what any of these doodles are? Does anyone know what any of these doodles are? You can just speak out loud, probably.
Yeah. Hi guys, Suhasa. So Doodles are basically representations of important events that happen on a particular day, and Google comes up with these nice pictorial depictions of these events.
Yep, that's exactly right. So does anyone know actually what specifically each of these doodles represent? So to give you a hint, this is the Doppler effect, for example. It's William Doppler who invented the Doppler effect, or founded it. Does anyone have any ideas on what these other doodles are or what they represent? So this one might be someone who likes Korean food might know. This one is an Indian festival of colors. Any guesses? Or maybe it's in the chat, you guys. Yep, Holi. Okay, so we got two responses saying Holi. So the one on the top right is Holi. The one on the bottom left is the Kimchi Day, which is a delicious Korean food. And then the one on the bottom right is Father's Day. So so these are kind of an assortment of different sorts of doodles. But now what would be interesting, or worthwhile to discuss, and this is kind of a case study here, is what makes a good Google Doodle? Like, why would we decide to run one Google Doodle over another Google Doodle? Does anyone have any ideas of what motives we might have for running one Google Doodle over another? Or criteria that you might look at if you were thinking about this? Okay, user engagement, that's a good one. So what does user engagement actually look like, right? So some ideas here are clicks on the Google Doodle, hovers on the Google Doodle, maybe even just people staying on the page longer, having like more seconds on the page that are clearly doing something or interacting with the page in some way. Any other ideas of what makes a good Google Doodle? Like, what could drive decisions on which Google Doodles to run every year? Okay, cool. So to remind people of a certain event is another response. Yes, I think that's absolutely right. So, maybe we want to bring attention to something, and, a lot of times Google Doodles are doing things that are kind of, social justice and maybe alerting people of people who maybe have not gotten as much attention lately, or they're maybe highlighting an important date in time, like a birthday of someone. Yeah, so a couple other ideas that are popping in. So connecting with all kinds of people on their special days, specific to their culture. So maybe, Google wants to feel like everyone is connected to Google. So maybe doing these individual, smaller Google Doodles that have a very targeted approach, like, a Google Doodle just for Iceland really makes Iceland feel welcome, makes them feel special on that day. And then now we're getting a ton of great ideas. So, user interaction with the doodle, past doodle performance. So like maybe if we ran a Father's Day doodle again last year, what was the interaction like? Can we benchmark it against something? So these are all great ideas. So, and thanks guys for being so interactive on the chat. That's really helpful. So, at the end of the day, there's no right answer to this question, though. A good Google Doodle is kind of a misnomer because a Google Doodle is whatever you want it to be. And if you want it to do to delight people, that's great. Then make it really pretty and colorful, maybe, and then that's the goal. Clicks is kind of a hard metric to really understand, right? Like it's unclear what a click represents and if a click is doing necessarily good or bad. So an example of confusion might be around holy, for example, right? Maybe a lot of people don't know what holy is. They just think it looks cool, and then they like click it or they look at it, but then they don't know it. They think it's like a paintball doodle or something, right? So perhaps the doodle didn't accomplish its goal, right? And it would be hard to understand just from a metrics perspective if the doodle actually did or did not accomplish its goal. So in general, with all of these metrics questions, it's helpful to kind of think about, okay, yes, like we want a certain objective, but we also need to look at the qualitative metrics to understand, are we hitting that objective or not? So hopefully that just gives you a sense of sort of some of the questions and topics that you may address as dealing with metrics with product management. Does anyone have a question? They were unmuting themselves. Okay, I guess not. Okay, so now I want to move on to a different sort of beast altogether. So this is actually a live bug with Instagram. So in Instagram, there is a web and a mobile experience. For those of you who don't know, specifically the difference between native and web, basically there's an app on your phone, the Instagram app, and then there's also Instagram.com, which you can access in both your mobile browser and your desktop browser. So in this case, we have a setting called hide inappropriate comments. So it's sort of a safe setting, right? A safe comment setting. In the desktop version, you can actually toggle this setting on and off. And in the mobile app version, you can toggle this setting on and off. However, the setting is not synchronized. So if I turn it on in the desktop, it does not turn it on in the app. And if I turn it on in the app, it does not turn it on in the desktop. Can anyone tell me if this is a good or bad user experience and explain a little bit why? So again, to repeat, we have a desktop experience that has the same toggle as the app experience, but you can toggle them on and off asynchronously. They don't synchronize with one another. So anyone have opinions about if this is a good user experience, bad user experience, and a little bit of information why? Yeah, it should be in sync, is what someone's saying. Why should it be in sync, though? What's the purpose of having it in sync?
Why I feel it should be in sync is this feature isn't specific to a device. It is something to do with your experience on the platform. For example, it is a content specific feature, and if I don't want to see inappropriate comments on my web platform, I wouldn't want to see it on my mobile device as well. So I'm not too sure why they wouldn't have kept it in sync.
Yeah, so not only, and if you guys notice a little closer, like not only is the toggle not in sync, but the language is not in sync. In one case, it says hide offensive comments. In the other case, it says hide inappropriate comments. So let's say that you're the product manager. You agree. It's like, okay, let's make it in sync. We need to make this in sync, and it's currently not in sync. How do we do that? How do we think about that problem? So just to skip a little bit ahead, this is kind of how I would imagine thinking about the problem, right? So we have native in the columns and web in the rows. So if your native safe comments are on in both the web and the native platform, then we can synchronize that setting without really having to move a setting or change a toggle, right? And it's the same in the case that your native safe comment setting are off and your web safe comment setting are off also. In that case, all you have to do is just synchronize the setting under the hood, but you don't have to actually change it in the front to the user. Cool. So in any case, what would you do in the cases where there are blanks? So in the case where my web platform has safe comments on and my app platform has safe comments off, or vice versa, how would you handle that situation? So for example, some ideas of what you can do here, and you can comment while I'm talking. Some ideas, yeah, so as a developer, so we are the product manager of the product. We know that users are sometimes have the toggle on in their desktop and off in their app, and sometimes they have it on in their app and off in their desktop. So what would you do? Would you change the toggle in their desktop? Would you change the toggle in their app? Would you make it all to the safe comment setting? Would you make it all to the not saved comment setting. Okay, so one idea is that we can speak with them first. So we could communicate with them, communicate with the users what they need and what they want, and then change the setting. The idea is that in the previous page, we just decided that we want to synchronize this setting, that it's a broken experience to have it asynchronized, right? So that means that we have to synchronize the setting. We have to pick some setting for them to be on, or get them to pick some setting, or somehow give them a, like, you know, make it so that in our database we only have one entry for that item. So, you know, yes, alerting them with a pop-up is good. Common settings with user override, I'm not totally sure what that means. But so yeah, Siddharth is saying, I assume save comments off to be default. So if any user has save comments on in the platform, that gives us their preference. So I think what Siddharth is kind of getting at here, and what sort of is a reasonable approach, is that if a user has ever turned on save comments, we should be able to, we should switch to that setting. We should take that conservative setting. A lot of folks are also commenting about giving alerts and notifications to users, which is absolutely great as well. So not only do we want to take the conservative approach here, because if a user has turned on save comments, we don't want to give them an experience where they see inappropriate comments, but we also want to alert them that we've made this change. So something where we're telling them a pop-up, hey, we've changed your setting. Is this all right with you? And then you give them a button so they can change the setting if they don't want to change it. So at the end of the day, the key lessons here, one, you know, we understand that we want to synchronize the setting because it's a better experience for users. Two, we want to understand that taking the conservative approach here is the better approach. We want to turn save comments off, or save comments on for them if their settings are asynced. And then lastly, we want to communicate this to the user. We want to give them a sense of, hey, we did something to your user experience and that we're changing it, so therefore, like, you know, feel free to change it if you want to. Give them the tools to change it as well. Cool. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone, and if not, I'm happy to answer questions towards the end. Last case study before we jump into a little bit more of the talk. If any of you guys have seen this box before, so this is a privacy reminder box from Google. And the question to you is, what experiments would you run on this box? A/B experiments. And an A/B experiment is basically where you can take 50% of users to see one experience, 50% of users to see a different experience, then you can evaluate the metrics of each. What would you experiment on with this box to drive click-through rates? And our idea is that we want people to click on that review button and to accept the terms so that they can go along with their search experience. That's one of our important goals. Another important goal is that we have users that understand how we're using our privacy. So what experiments might you run with that box to kind of drive that metric a little bit more? So one example of something you could do is make the button bigger. But does anyone have any other ideas of experiments that you might run with that box that could drive click-through rates and also inform users of their privacy? Okay, so we have a couple ideas. So the position of the box on the web page. So we could maybe rank the box in the page with the other results. That's a good idea. We could also change the color scheme. Maybe the blue is too kind of invisible with the rest of the Google blue on the page. You know, maybe the UI of the button could change. A red color might be a more kind of alerting way to do it. These are all fantastic ideas. So at the end of the day, there's no right answer. One really interesting way to think about it, and you know, of course, we can definitely change the UI of that box. But thinking even broader, what if we sent an email to a user after they say, "I'll read this later"? Or what if we, you know, when you click review, if you click "I'll read this later," the next time it appears, it's even bigger. You know, there's a lot of different interesting things that you could play around with here. And the idea here is that you want to understand, okay, not only do we want to get users to click this button, we also want them to understand their privacy. You know, and yeah, a great idea from DJ is just make that message more interesting. Like a privacy reminder from Google seems like something I would never want to click, right? I would just delete that email as soon as I can. But what if I said something like, you know, you have to accept this in order to use Google search in 3 days or something? Maybe they're creating that sense of urgency, letting users know that this is a task that they'll need to do. Might be something like that. Or yeah, a did you know kind of message could be good here too. So yeah, in general, with these questions, helpful to think about what tools you have to play with here, what are your goals, and what metrics you're going to look at to align yourself with those goals. So I'll pause here with the interactivity for a little bit and talk a little bit about myself, and then we'll go back into some of those interactive style questions. Thanks for cooperating, guys. This is the first time I've done a webcam interactive session, so we're all kind of learning together, but it seems like you guys are really interactive, so thank you guys so much. We have, this is a little bit of like the products that I worked on when I was at Google. So I worked on the solitaire feature at Google along with a bunch of other awesome games and fun experiences at Google. So if you didn't know, you can Google solitaire and you can play solitaire right in your Google search. I worked on the Google Doodles team as well as the Google Assistant team. And then I spent about a year working on the Android Wear team, which is the smartwatch team at Google. I had an amazing time, and I'm happy to answer questions about my experience with Google. Now I work on two main things. One is Hack Mental Health, which is an organization dedicated to the intersection of technology and mental health. And then I also work on PM lessons. So I help people get interview practice and coach them to get their dream job in product management. And usually I focus on people working towards Google, Facebook, Microsoft, those kinds of companies for product management. So you guys are probably already familiar with product management, but obviously, as you know, this is not what product management is. Neither is this. A lot of people think that product management is about managing people, but it's not actually about managing people. It's more about kind of influence without power, and be able to convince people of things that you think are actually right or the right direction for the product without telling someone to do it. You have to convince them, and it's a lot more about an art than it is kind of just managing. Question from DJ: do Google take PMs from other organizations, and are they expected to be technically strong? I don't know what you mean by other organizations. They take PMs from other companies and universities, but they are expected to be technically strong. So a lot of Google product managers have a computer science background. So as I like to say, PMing is kind of like this at the intersection of UX, tech, and business. I would really actually like to say it's something like this, where it's at the intersection of a whole bunch of different things, and you're always working, kind of on a different aspect at a different time. Especially at Google, with such a large company, you're always touching a little piece of the product everywhere you go. So now I'll kind of cover the path to PM, and we'll go through some of the interview questions. And feel free, now is a good time if you guys have any questions, we can jump in and talk about things. Suhas is asking, is this across all projects? I'm not sure what you mean by this, but if you mean this diagram, I would say that the difference here is that the stage of the product and the product lifecycle will determine which of these attributes, which of these teams you're going to be working with at any time. So if you're very early on, you're going to be working a lot probably with illustrators and designers, kind of figuring out what that product looks like. But then if you're close to launch, you're going to be working with marketing and PR a lot, right? Because you want to get the launch plan ready, you want to get all the users excited and hyped up, and things like that. So hopefully that answers your question. Does anyone have any other questions?
Stephen, just a follow-up on the previous question. That was a little more specific to Google. So probably when you're working on a feature or a product on Google, do you actually use all these tools, or across all these domains, or how does it generally work in bigger tech firms?
So you're referring to this diagram?
Yeah, this one, yeah.
So I think at scale, you will be working with, at any company at scale, you're going to be working with all of these types of people. At Uber, at Facebook, at all these companies, because you just your product touches so many things. So if you're working at a startup, you're likely not going to be touching maybe as much of the legal stuff, the PR stuff. You're going to be doing marketing on your own, probably, things like that. Does that answer your question, or are you asking something a little different?
So I just want to know, say, if it's a daily, say a 9 to 6, suppose you're working, do you really use all this when you're probably designing, say you're on the Maps team for Google, or say you're on the growth team for Uber? So do you think you'd be using all these, or does it be very specific to the feature that you're working on? For example, if you're on the growth team, you might use, say, the marketing and data analysis from this and not too much of the rest. It's just a question, because
I think, again, it really depends on where you are in the product lifecycle and what specific type of product you work on. So if you're on the growth team, you're going to be working with marketing more. If you're on the back end, team, you'll be working with engineering a lot and kind of the business side of things. So I would say that it really depends on your experience. There's no one PM fits all experience. If you want kind of a sample of what life was like as a Google PM, I recently posted a blog post about it. So you can check that out. I'll link to it at the end of the talk. And feel free to message me if you have more questions. I'm not totally sure if I'm answering your question, but at the end of the day, it's always a unique assortment of these roles that you're going to be working with at every stage. And it's hard to predict or pick even, because at the different stages of the product, you're going to be working with different people. So I'm going to answer these questions that are in the chat right now, and then we'll save the rest of the questions for the end of the talk. So the interaction would be a stepwise one, right? And I'm not sure what that exactly means. So Karsh, could you clarify that maybe by the end of the talk, and we can talk about that? Abhishek, what are key things do you keep in mind before deciding to take up a new project? When I moved from Solitaire to Doodle. So you're actually, as a PM, you're working on multiple projects at the same time. And you sometimes get a choice, sometimes you don't. I would say that in general, you're working on an area. So you can see that the first few things I was working on, Doodles, games, and the Google Assistant, are all sort of delightful features. And in many ways, I was the product manager for delight. So thinking about delight in the Google search experience, and how we can improve our delightful experiences across our product areas, and things like that. So I would say that the question is a little bit of a misnomer. I'm not picking the projects necessarily. Maybe one thing that I'd be considering is, do I have enough bandwidth for this project? Can I actually work on this project with a reasonable amount of time? Also, I need to tell my manager and let them know. But otherwise, you're basically working in a space, and you have to kind of figure out what the highest priority projects are in that space. Okay, so now Utkarsh is maybe with the tech while making it, PR while launching it. Okay, and yeah, okay, that seems like I answered all the questions. I'm going to move on to the next part. So how to actually land your job. So the resume is the first part. It's usually the first part that gets you in the door. Here are just some small tips about the resume. Generally, technical experience helps, but is not required. Product experience is very useful, especially if you've been in industry for a while. Having software projects show that you've actually done something, that you've created something before. Show that you have a nice GPA, or work on that if you guys are in school right now. That actually helps. And then leadership ability. So some of these are just basic stuff. But I would say that, where you can, try to show that you've thought about products, try to show that you are technical in some nature. If you're not technical at all, perhaps you could do things like blog about technology, or make a small website, make a personal website, whatever it is, just do something small that shows that you're really interested in technology. And I have a blog post about this too, we can talk about more at the end of the talk. So now we're in the meat of it. So the interview. So that's this. Now we're going to go through a few questions together as a group, and I'll kind of ask you the question. You guys will spend 5 minutes on it, and then I'll give you a summary of how the question went, and how I would approach it, and then hear your guys' answers. So for the first question, there's 3 main types of questions. I would say there's estimation questions, there's product questions, there's analytical questions. So this first one, the estimation question, is all about finding some number to some question. And it's not about the actual number, it's about the process that you use to find that number. So if all of you guys can take maybe 2 minutes or so, that might be really fast, but usually we split up into groups, and in this case, I don't think we can really do that as much. So just try to, on your own time, come up with a method or an approach that you would use to solve this problem, and come up with a final number. So maybe take 2 to 3 minutes to figure that out. We're only considering the drivable roads. So I hope that you guys are familiar with the Google Street View, but it's that car that drives on the roads. The approximate area of the U.S., Daya, you'll need to find out. That's part of the estimation. But for Abhishek, your question, does it mean the entire U.S., habitable places only, or everywhere? It's basically the places that you can drive on, the roads that you can drive on, that we're mapping from that car. The car is taking a shot at it from left and right. So Ravi Shug has a number, 30,000 self-driven cars. And yeah, so when you guys are ready, maybe let's say give it 1.5 more minutes. Just try to come to a number. Don't worry too much about getting the right number. Just come to some number that you feel comfortable and proud of. And you can kind of articulate why you chose that number. Karen has 6,000. So once my clock hits 11:33, we'll pause. So everyone, just try to put in your numbers as soon as you can. Hit 11:33. So thanks, guys, for putting in your numbers. So when I do this problem, sometimes I get around like 10 to 15. So there's no right answer. Don't freak out if your answer is like way higher or way lower than that. At the end of the day, it's about your approach. So one of the people in the chat was saying like, oh, what's the approximate size of the US? So can anyone tell me, did you calculate that in the part of your calculation? And how did you go about calculating that, the size of the US? Darth, for example, says that he took a city, the length of a road in a city gives us the numerator, the distance per day per car times 365 is the denominator, and you're extrapolating to the overall area of the US. Now, that sounds like a good approach, but there's like a little bit of fuzziness in terms of like how do you extrapolate it, or what is it, how much is the road in a city? And at the end of the day, what you want to do with these questions is you want to break them down to their core components as much as you can. So in this case, there's a few approaches that you can take, right? There's, maybe we can look at the road density of a square mile of the United States, right? So take a square mile of the United States, and then that square mile likely has some average road density. And maybe you want to bifurcate, you want to split it into city and rural areas, but regardless, it probably has something. So let's say it's 2 miles per square mile of the US. And then how many square miles are in the US actually? How do you calculate that? And that's another hard one. And again, you can't Google for this question, so it's quite hard to actually come up with some of these numbers. But an approach that I might use is maybe the drive, some drive, right? I don't know if everyone here is living in the US, but for example, I know the drive from San Francisco to San Jose because that's where I'm from. And then I can extrapolate, okay, I can imagine that segment. How many of those segments fit into the west side of the US? And then how many of those segments fit into the north, like the west to east side of the US? So I'm imagining the west coast, then I'm imagining the north top of the US, and then I can just multiply those numbers together to get the area. And so then now I have the area of the US. I can use my average road density to kind of get a sense of how much road there is in the US. And then now I know the amount of road that I need, and then what I need to know is how much the cars can do per day. So one assumption that a lot of you probably made is that the cars can drive 24 hours a day. Why is that incorrect? Any ideas? So you guys, maintenance might be one. Cars can't take pictures of things well in the night. Hopefully it's clear to you guys that this is a Google Street View car. It's the car that takes pictures. So how would it take good pictures at night? Or maybe weather is a frustrating issue. And in fact, if you're calculating hours of daylight, you need to calculate the average hours of daylight because daylight changes over the season, right? Because summer has more daylight, winter has less daylight. So there is a lot of these random variables that are kind of not obvious from first perspective, and those are a really important part of the estimation questions. Stuart says night vision. While that's a cool answer, Street View, I've never seen night vision on Street View. And Street View, if you imagine the experience, why would it have night vision on it? But it's totally fine if you want to go for it. Maybe IR cameras and things like that. The goal of Street View is to show users the street and the businesses, and it would be really hard to see it at night, even with night vision. But hey, Suhas, if you think that that's what they're doing, tell me that. Make that assumption in your answer, and make it clear. So, at the end of the day, there's no wrong approach necessarily here. The idea is that you just want to show that you've made the assumptions and you're actually going forward with that approach. So yeah, I've decided that it has night vision, and this is why I think that, and this is my answer given that assumption. So at the beginning of the question, state your assumptions, break down the problem, tell me each of these core pieces, and really don't leave any like loose ends of logic. Don't just be like, okay, and then we extrapolate it, and then we get to here. Because that doesn't really follow, right? I don't really understand how you got from one piece to the next. So at every stage, at every step of the process, tell me how you're getting to that number. Try to make reasonable estimates and reasonable approaches. And again, I have a whole blog post on just how to answer this question. So feel free to follow me after this post, and then we can, after this talk, and then we can share and discuss that if you guys would like offline. So next question, because I want to make sure we get through all this time and have time for questions at the end. You work at Google and you notice many users are taking photos at the same geolocation, like the Grand Canyon. Can you tell me or design a better product experience with this use case? And what I mean by better isn't necessarily something that there's something wrong with this experience, but is there anything creative or cool that you can think of that can leverage the fact that we notice a lot of users are taking photos in the same spot? What sorts of designs or features are coming in your head when you hear about this? Okay, a 3D view. Maybe Surdeep is talking about you can compile everyone's photos together to make kind of a panoramic or three-dimensional view. Abhishek has an idea to compare your photos with others. That's really cool. So maybe I take my photo and then it can show me other people's photos or my friends' photos at the same spot, and we can see all our photos together. Maybe which backgrounds can make a good pose, maybe showing me where to take the photo in the best spot so that I can get that best photo. An augmented layer for a guided tour. So maybe I'm walking around and there's a augmented reality, signage on my phone that tells me more about the mountains that I'm seeing and what mountains or which mountains. Great, these are all fantastic ideas. More filters for when light fails. There's also, in addition to the ones that you guys are mentioning, there's some about kind of social features, maybe filters like Snapchat filters. You could even imagine making some games out of it. Maybe you have to like kind of Pokemon Go style. You have to go collect all the different spots with your photograph. And there's a lot of different ideas here. At the end of the day, you're going to be working with your interviewer to hash out a product, to hash out a feature, and understand what it looks like, why you think that's a good feature, why you think it's good that Google is making that feature, what is uniquely positioning, what is uniquely, opportunistic about Google's position that allows it to specifically make a product like this. And maybe, I think Pooja is saying something where you can look at the photos taken at the same spot over time, so you can make like a GIF out of it. So there's a lot of great ideas. We won't go into any of them too much in this talk, but at the end of the day, I just want to get you a sense so that, when you answer these questions, you want to be creative, you want to show some ideas. One approach that's helpful sometimes is to think about pain points and then go from the pain points to think about features. And then with your interviewer, you really need to hash out the user experience. So, what does it actually look like? I take out the notification, I click it, where does it take me? Does it get to my camera app? And then what does it do? And why are these decisions made? So take some time to like draw out these on a whiteboard. One of my biggest tips is to always whiteboard. And yeah, just have fun with it. These questions are supposed to be creative and get the juices flowing. Beyond just throwing out the idea, the kind of details that are expected in this question, thanks Abhishek for the question, is exactly defining the user experience and also sometimes talking about your go-to-market strategy. So how would you actually launch this feature? What would that look like? But the interviewer often plays with you to figure out what exactly that is. So for now, what I would say is just come up with creative ideas, having a good framework. And again, it's really hard to talk about any one of these too much in this session. I'm just kind of giving you an overview. There's plenty of blog content I've written on each of these questions that dives deeper into some frameworks that you can use more specifically and how to approach some of these questions a little bit more. But this I would say the main important goals you want the interviewer to come away with is that you understand how to build user experience products. You understand what pain points are, what the markets are, and how to address those markets. And then you're a creative person, and you can really think of these things. And one thing that really helps me is thinking about technology trends like AR or context awareness and applying that to my answer and using that in my answer to come up with some of these creative ideas. Okay, so we have an analytics question, and then I want to just end the talk and go through things. So this question is about, for those of you who've taken Uber, you guys use Uber, you know that you call an Uber and then the Uber comes to you to pick you up. So I'm talking about the ETA for passenger pickup. So the time that it takes from me clicking that button And then, actually, not from me clicking the button, from me being assigned a driver to the driver coming to pick me up. So what are some of the variables that Uber could use to estimate that ETA beyond what the Google Maps ETA would provide? Does anyone have any ideas? So the historical data between those routes. Great job, Abhishek. That's a really good one. So given a route, does it take longer or less? Like what maybe people make wrong turns on it more, and that's why it takes so long. So the Google Maps ETA would still say it takes a certain amount of time, but we know as Uber that a lot of drivers make wrong turns. Another one could be the average speed of the driver. So maybe the driver drives slower or faster, depending on their speed. The historic data of the passengers. So Varshal, I'd love to understand why passengers are an important one here. I know that the driver information is important, but I'm not sure why the passenger is important.
So there are some passengers who always are late for the pickup. So that happens in India. I'm not sure that happens in US as well.
Yeah, it does happen in the US. I would say that it falls a little bit outside the bounds of this question because we're looking at the ETA presented to the user for passenger pickup. But I understand where you're coming from, and I think that if we were calculating that ETA, then yes, absolutely, it would include that too. But that's a great point, regardless. That it takes a long time for the passenger to actually get in the car, right? Surdeep is saying that the driver performance over history, yes, of course. The driver availability in that area, Pooja, I would say that is not as much of a factor because we're picking the ETA after the driver's already been selected. So hopefully that's clear. So it's after the driver's been selected until the driver actually picks up the passenger. Santosh is saying that the passenger pickup is relevant for a shared ride. Absolutely, Santosh. So that's a great point. So if we're doing a Uber pool, perhaps the passenger pickup will help estimate that ETA. That's a great point. Akash is mentioning the drop-up time before the pickup. So yeah, maybe the time that it takes to get the passenger out of the car, and then Ravishu and Daya have great suggestions on time of day and weather, just environmental factors, right? Like there could be other things. Like maybe at nighttime, it's harder for the drivers to get around, so they're driving a little slower. So let's pause there. I know you guys all have great ideas about this, and it's a really fun question. In general, these questions show your ability to understand metrics, understand data, understand how to use that data, and understand some common questions. This one might be, what are some YouTube metrics? What would you look at if you were in charge of YouTube? Or how would you design some A/B test experiments? And why would you prioritize the ones that you've chosen? And what metrics would you look at? So analytics is testing kind of the left brain stuff. Product is a little bit more of the right brain, maybe creative stuff. But there's a kind of loose distinction there. In general, you want to understand how to use data. You want to understand how to extrapolate from data, and you want to understand how to answer some of these, metric-based questions. Hopefully that was all clear. I'm going to move on to a few more slides, and then we can go to questions. So, just if I want you to come away with like some general tips that you can just use in your interview practice, here are 4 that I just really think are important. 1, always mention trade-offs. So always just say like something that might be nuanced with your answer. So for example, if you're saying self-driving cars take this amount of time, always mention, well, I haven't considered weather yet, and if I had more time, I would consider weather. Or always kind of complicate your answer at the end. This shows to your interviewer that you're thinking about the problem, and the interviewer might already have these grapes in their mind. They're not saying it, and it addresses them. So it's always good to kind of at the end of your question mention how your answer might be wrong, or what trade-offs you're considering. Secondly, and this answers the question that DJ just asked, ask a question first. So whenever you get a question, the first thing you should do is not answer the question, it's ask another question to clarify and to scope out the problem. After you've done that, take some time, pause, and come up with an answer and then answer your question. And DJ and everyone, I also have a full guide on the exact perfect interview structure as well. So what you should pause, you should explain your approach, and then you should go to your approach and stuff like that. So hopefully a lot of this stuff that I've already written will be really helpful for you after the talk. So the next 2 tips, backtrack with grace. So if you're saying something, this often happens, and it's always hard, but you're saying something and you realize you're wrong while you're saying it. So when you do it, do something like, and so my approach to this problem is this. Actually, now that I say that, I realize that my approach is incorrect. I would actually like to switch to approach B, since I think that it will be more effective than approach A given these criteria. So just a little flavor of what that might look like, but your own style, your own approach, come up with a way that you can backtrack with grace so that you can pivot your answer if you need to without stumbling on yourself. And then the last one is always whiteboard. It's a great visual cue, great visual reminder and structure to what you're doing and what you're saying in that question. So always, always, if you have the chance, write points on the whiteboard, try to add some structure to your question. In general, some tips I have on how to prepare: read blogs, read books, and discuss with your friends, practice with your friends. In general, I've found that books are good for people kind of getting an entry-level taste. Blogs are good for people who want to push it a step further. That's just an overall kind of generalization. My blog is in there, and I post a lot. So hopefully you guys can take that down and check them out. It's a list of all my blog posts that have some of these structures and frameworks as well. But in general, just read about tech trends, understand technology. Why do you think things are going the way they are? Do you think that Uber will be around in 10 years? What will it look like in 10 years? So have opinions, read other people's opinions, develop some insights that you have about the world and about technology. Here is just a smattering of companies that hire PMs. This sometimes helps people if they're looking for PM jobs, they don't know where to apply. So just a small smattering. And then, as you know, I work on PM Lesson. So if you guys want to get access to our platform early, we have a bunch of question and answer bank. It's a question and answer bank, basically, of some of these questions with detailed answers. Please go to the website. When you click the Get Started for Free button, there's a spot to message. And in the message, put the word pragmatic. So just put the word pragmatic, and then I'll know that you came from the session, and then I'll hook you up with a discount code. So hopefully you guys can all sign up if you're interested in more practice. And that's all I have for the talk. So please pester me with questions right now. I'll answer as many as I can. I'm going to take a look a little bit at the screen. And yeah, so and by the way, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and that's my personal email. So if you guys ever have any questions or problems, or you just want a little bit of help or advice, feel free to reach out to me personally. I'm more than happy to help you. I really, really care about product management. Product management is one of the most awesome roles, I think, in technology right now. So whatever I can do to help you land that dream job, please reach out. Thank you guys all for the talk, and now I'll go to question and answer time. So the questions from DJ, and let me just leave this up for now in case you guys want it. Are there junior roles for PM, like associate PM or junior PM? If yes, what is expected from them? So there are APM roles and junior PM roles. Usually you're not expected to know that much going in about product management. What you're expected to do is to be a hustler and to learn fast on the job and to have some technical background. Show leadership ability, show that you've done some software projects before. Hopefully that answers your question, and feel free to ask a follow-up if not. Abhishek, how I decided to start PM Lesson was because I myself discovered product management my junior year of college, and I realized I fell in love with it, but I also realized it was really hard to get into. And in fact, the acceptance rates for some of these companies are near 1%. So what I realized is that it's just a hugely exciting industry. A lot of people want to break into it, but they don't know how. They don't know how to prepare for their interviews. So I decided to start PM Lesson to help people really ace that interview and get into their dream job. Shubham, what is the difference between project and product management? Project management is more about kind of organizing tasks and making sure things are kept on a regular flow and making sure that everything is moving along. Product management certainly involves project management, but product management also involves a lot of the product vision stuff, some of the stuff we're talking about in the Grand Canyon. It also involves some more of the kind of persuasive leadership ability. But at the end of the day, project and product management are close, I would say, siblings in terms of careers. And often you can switch between them at certain companies. But product management, a little bit more on the vision, a little bit more on the product, how you shape that product and using that technical ability. But it definitely varies from company to company. Daya, as an IT PM, how important is it to dwell technically? for a person coming from a non-coding background. So I would say try your hardest to just show why. Like, my question as a recruiter to you is, why do you want to work at a tech company if you're non-technical? So tell me why. Maybe it's because you love designing products, or maybe it's because you read all about products and you're a tech geek. But at the end of the day, you're applying to a tech company. So tell me why you want to work at that company or a tech company. Like, what is it about that? What is it about your experience that shows that you're really passionate and interested about it? Nishit has a question about, what does it take to be a PM? What all traits and skill sets should one carry for the same? I would say communication, leadership, the ability to persuade, the ability to be a hustler and get things done regardless of the obstacles in your way, the ability to be organized. And the cool thing is about product management is that you will develop a skill set that's unique to yourself and unique to the job that you're in. So some people become really heavy analytics PMs. Some people become really heavy design PMs. And you can come up with that own flavor that feels right for you, and depending on the product, what the product needs as well. But to get go, some of the ones I mentioned earlier are a good place to get started. Ravi Shu, I feel the amount and type of PM work one does in a role matters when we think about capability and potential, but still, companies have a minimum number of years as a requirement for the job. So one, I don't think that's necessarily true, Ravi Shu. I think that there are a lot of companies that will hire junior PMs. You just got to look for them. Two, I think that you just got to apply for jobs even if they have a little bit of a minimum requirement, and phrase your experience in a way that shows that you have some exposure to product. That said, it sometimes can be hard, and this is kind of a paradoxical issue with any first-time job, that all these jobs are asking for experience, but how do you even get experience in the first place? Do your best to get experience in side projects, I would say. Maybe start at an entry-level job at a company that isn't a PM role necessarily, and then switch into product management if it's really challenging for you. But I do think that there are associate product manager roles that you can find. So when you can, and if you can, try to find those. A lot of the companies that I posted in that one slide had them, actually. So you can try that. I'm just going to switch the chat. I'm going to close my slide. Hopefully you guys are going to stop sharing. I think you guys are good with those sharing. But if you need my contact information, just ask. Okay, so I'm not sharing my screen anymore. Cool. You guys are asking. I'm a pro. Okay, Shrishti is asking. I'm a program manager at a startup. Now I need to move into product management. I don't have a way to get into it within the organization. So Shrishti, simple answer, you might want to look into switching into a different company that has product management roles or an ability to switch if you can't switch at your company. Ask your manager. Let your manager know what's going on and what you're thinking about, and that you would really like to switch into PMing, but you don't know how because there's not a structure for it in your company. I see. And then Shrishti has a follow-up, as when I asked other organizations to ask for experience, which was where I get stuck. So take your resume, Shrishti, and frame your project management abilities in terms of product management. So show that even if your title is project manager, show that you've been doing product management type stuff. And if you're not currently doing product management type stuff, try to switch into a little bit more of that, or take it on in your free time at work, a little bit more of that, so that you're showing that you can do that sort of ability. If you really can't do that, do side projects, make your own website, show that you're PMing projects in the side on your own. Shiva, I work in a brand and digital marketing role in a bank. Are there projects I can do to improve my chances of getting a PM role, like a website? Yes, do a website. There's a whole blog post I have about people who are not technical that want to break into technical things. So Shiva, if you want, just message me on that website, pmlesson.com, and I can send you that blog article so that you can take a look. There's a ton of project ideas I have. Another idea is just blog. Just start a blog about product management. Shubham, what are the best sources available to learn PM? pmlesson.com. You can check out my website. You can check out the blogs that I listed on that one page. Feel free to message me if you forgot them. DJ, were you a developer before becoming a PM? I was a computer science major, but my first gig was associate product manager at Google. So I got a role at a product management at a project management role at Google right out of college. So it is possible. I was a computer scientist though, and I have done projects in computer science that helped me get into that. So I think doing projects is really helpful. Ravishu, I have the senior product manager experience in a startup, but looking to break through the big leagues. Any tips? Again, it's all about framing your experience in a way that shows that you have wrestled with some of the problems that will be at these big companies. And then I would say for you, Ravishu, what's helpful is getting referrals. So if you know people at the companies, get a referral that gets you in the door. And then really it's about acing the interview. Shrishti, glad it was helpful. And Shiva, glad it was helpful. Ayush, do you have jobs with your partners listed with Pragmatic Leaders job board? Ayush, I don't know what that exactly means, so feel free to follow up with me after. Daya, what is the growth track for a PM? There's a separate ladder for project management. Usually you end up a director after about 10 years, depending on the company, depending on the growth of the company. And then you go up to VP after that, and that's a little bit more amorphous. But in general, PMs are known to be competent leaders, so you will be in leadership roles, and you will be in sort of an accelerated track for management often. Abhishek, can you share a bit more about PM Lesson? How does it work? So PM Lesson is both an online question bank of questions and answers with lessons in it, all self-service, all you can take on your own. And then there's also a coaching service. So if you want the added prep, you can get individual sessions with me and other PMs that will coach you and give you some product management interview tips and advice. And we'll go through deep sessions where we'll kind of focus on your weaknesses and strengths. The product management PM lesson in general, the kind of thing that I'm saying that you can get a discount on is just the course online. So just the questions and answers online. Shubham, sorry guys, I hopefully I'm going through these as quick as I can. So Shubham, how much technology is required to learn to be a good PM? Technically none. I mean, Facebook hires non-technical PMs. I would say that you should understand why, like, my question to you, Shubham, is why do you want to be a PM at a tech company? You know, like, can you tell me why you even care about technology? Why, if I'm hiring you, would I believe that you actually want to work at this company and you care about technology? And that is the question the recruiter is going to be asking, and that's what you should show on your resume. Tarun, what motivated you to start your blog? I've always wanted to start blogging. It's one of those things that everyone wants to do but never has time. And I decided that it would just be a really cool way to share my knowledge and to get some of my self-expression out there. I blog about a lot of stuff, not just product management. So it was just a great way to express some thoughts that I had and to share some ideas. Tarun, do you think storytelling as a skill is important for PM? If yes, then how to learn this skill? I think it's important. One book I'd recommend is by Chip and Dan Heath called Made to Stick. I would read that book as a start. It's called Made to Stick. Pradipta has a question, how to do side projects as PM? Does that mean how to do side projects when you're doing a product management role, or how to do side projects that help you get into product management? To get entry. Okay, so you guys are all talking about, I'm just going to link this blog post in here. So read that blog post. Everyone should read that blog post because you guys are really asking a lot about it. It's a bunch of ideas in there on how to do side projects and what side projects to do, what to focus on in order to get into product management if you're feeling like you're not technical enough. Let me write down the name of the book. Chip and Dan Made to Stick. I just wrote down the name of the book as well that I just mentioned to Tarun. I would say it's easy to change domain. So the question is, how easy is it to change domains as a PM? I would say it's fairly easy, but what you need to do is to communicate with your manager. And you know, it depends. Like, it depends on what size company you're at and things like that. But generally, it's not challenging. It shouldn't be too difficult. What does it take to enter Google as a PM? What to start with? So basically everything that we kind of talked about, I would say. So, you know, the ability to show your leadership skills, the ability to really ace those interview questions, a good GPA, software project experience, all the stuff that I mentioned in the talk, I would say if you're looking where to start with, it's hard for me to answer that because I don't know if you're a student or not, or where you are in your life. I would say just really try to, like I showed you resume interview process, and I didn't mention it, but at the end sometimes they have an essay question as well. But I would really focus on making your resume really great if you're not getting in the door, and if you are getting in the door, that means that you just need to really ace your interview and really do well in the interview practice. Abhishek, for folks already working as a PM but may not be working on exciting projects in their current jobs, how can they upskill or gain better experience to eventually end up as a PM in global companies like Google? So that's a good question. I would say, consider applying to Google while you're a PM right now. You can sometimes switch into those companies, and even if you have a year or two of experience. If not, really kill it at your job. Really crush it at your job. Like, do something great, get some peer bonuses, or drive the metrics for your company a lot. And if you feel like your company is not exciting, then switch to a different company. Find a different company to work on, even if it's local for now. But you should be working in a company where you feel like you're doing exciting work, that you can really drive things, you can really show that you're a skilled PM. And then you can maybe position that resume and position your experience to get into Google. DJ is asking what are the best companies I personally think are the best to work in. I think Google is a fantastic company. I would recommend it as my #1 choice. I loved my time there. I think it's a great company. They really care about their employees. I don't think that I know enough about other companies to say positive or negative things about them. Why did I leave Google? I left Google because I wanted to challenge myself in a different way, and I feel like my learning curve was a little bit slowing. But it's not a reflection on Google itself. I think Google is a great place. I could have totally imagined working there for more years. I think I just personally wanted a different adventure. Okay, so people are asking a little bit about PM Lesson. So PM Lesson is basically an online course where you can, it's self-service, so you can just read through questions and answers. I've written out detailed answers to interview questions that you can quiz yourself on. They're dynamic, so you can actually quiz yourself, look for hints first, and then get the full answer. And then it also includes lessons and frameworks and other things like that that would be helpful for anyone kind of looking to get some extra practice. And then otherwise, on top of that, some people get coaching by me or by some other PMs where we individually in one-on-one sessions coach people to get their dream PM job. Does that help, DJ? Hopefully that's helping answer your question. I think I was showing a screenshot already in the presentation, which you might have missed. And I can show that again if it's helpful. Nishit, how to get started as a PM when you're completely new to it, especially when one is aiming for global companies like Google, Uber, and many more. How to get started as a PM? What do you mean by get started, Nishit? I'd love to understand where are you right now? Are you a student? Are you currently working? I think the answer to that question depends on your context. You're a student. I would say do well in your GPA, get a high GPA, take computer science classes, and just do really well in school, do some leadership activities, work on some software projects, build your own projects, build a website. That's what I'd recommend. Do that right now. Put it on your resume, and then when you go to apply to companies, the companies will see that you've done some of this stuff and see that you're really interested in product management work. MBAs can help, but they're usually more helpful if you're already technical. I would say that they're not necessary by any means. Greatest hurdle for a PM, I think one of the greatest hurdles is just being organized and just prioritizing. Like making sure that every day you go into work and you do things that are the most important, because there's an infinite number of things you can do. So you should make sure that you're prioritizing the most important ones. I would say that's the biggest hurdle for a PM, is just making sure you're prioritizing what you work on. Some questions that I need to answer. Design thinking user experience courses, yes, they help a PM. There's many things that can help a PM. There's a whole assortment of types of things, and it depends on what kind of PM you want to do and what's specific to your work. Same question as Shubham has a question. Currently just got a job as a project manager. Want to excel in product management. So Shubham, we talked a little bit today about some of the decisions that you might have to make, some leadership abilities. So I would say try to show that you're being a leader at your job, try to do really well at your job. and tell your manager, let your manager know that you want to break into product management and see if you can get a little bit more product management experience at work. Hey, has a question. Got to learn a great deal. Any specifics on how to shortlisted for interviews? So DJ, I had a slide on this in the talk. It was about leadership ability, showing that you've done software projects, high GPA, product experience, things like that. I would say that, if you want to look at the blog post that I linked in that document in this chat already, and that also has some tips on resumes. Pradipta, though PM is an exciting job, how often does it happen that he gets stuck with a dud product or not mature enough not to need any more features? It's very unlikely that you'll be mature enough to not need more features, so I wouldn't worry about that. You're always going to be thinking about the next step, and it's on you if you can't think of an exciting way to take that product in a new direction. Dud product, again, it's on you to figure out if it is a dud product, then tell management that. Be like, yeah, we should cancel this product, and this is why we should cancel this product. That's a product management decision. So I don't think that you should worry too much about that. What you should worry about more is being in a culture and an environment where you don't like it, or you can't make those kinds of decisions. So just make sure that at the place that you work, you are empowered to make these kinds of decisions. You are empowered to switch products if you're not excited about it, and it's in a space that is exciting for you. Zoya has a question. How's the market for New York for PM jobs? What kind of compensation can I expect? So generally, I would say six-figure salary. So $100,000 is kind of becoming expected a little bit. Somewhere around there would be what I would expect for an entry-level PM job. In New York, I think the market is strong. I think there are a lot of PM jobs, but obviously San Francisco is the most strong. But I think it's totally ripe in New York. I would say it's probably the second biggest. Of course, Pradipta. Thanks, guys, for asking questions. Hopefully, I try to go through them fast, so I got through all of them, because I don't know exactly how much time we have. And yeah, please, of course, reach out if there's any other questions you guys have. I'm more than happy to help. Shubham, the charge of the course you'll be emailed about if you sign up, but generally the entry-level course is I'll mention it to you over chat, but they're all really reasonable prices. The coaching sessions are more expensive, but the individual online course is about the cost of a book. So then she's asking a question, which one do you recommend, product or project manager? Which one has better scope and distant feature? I don't think that's what you should be looking for. I think what you should be asking is, which one is better suited to my interests? Do you like keeping things on track? Do you like kind of like the execution of things? Do you like running meetings and just, kind of checking on tasks and keeping things organized? Or do you like some of that product vision stuff where you can decide, I think this is a good feature we should build. This is the direction the industry is going. This is why I think we should build this product that we're proposing, stuff like that. So that would be the question I would ask you. Stephen has one last question. Do startups or companies hire freshers as project managers just for the assistant junior role? Yes, that was the job that I got. So it is possible. I don't know what the landscape looks like where you are, but at least in Mountain View, San Francisco, there is a lot of, if you're coming from a good school, good grades, you've worked really hard, you interview really well, you show that you've had product experience, that will really help you. And you can get into the assistant or junior role. Freshers, maybe, I don't know what that term means if it's freshmen, but you likely won't get a job until you're age 3rd or 4th year in college. 3rd year, you can get an internship, 4th year, you get a job. And then Tarun asks, any Indian tech product you have used, reviewed, and would like to discuss with us? I don't think we have time to do that in this session, but feel free to message me and we can talk about it message me on my website, and then we can talk about it after, or you can email me. Cool. Thanks, guys. I see, fresh graduate. Yeah, yes, new grad. You can get a job. That's exactly the job I got. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining this call. I think we'll end it now because I've been inundated with your questions, which is fantastic. So, but I think if you guys have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to ask. Email me. You have all my contact information. Visit my website. Hopefully it's helpful. Ravishu, why don't you contact Tarun or just contact me and I'll hook it up, okay? And yes, don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. thank you guys so much for joining the session, and hopefully you guys learned something. And good luck with your PM interview prep and your PM career journeys.